Hello and welcome to today's Up to Thrive, Manage Your Mind, Mindful Moment.
Welcome to Up to Thrive, your go-to podcast for women's wellness in midlife, designed to educate, support, and inspire you to live your very best life. And now your host, Dr. Karina Sims.
Today I want to talk about something that frequently comes up during coaching calls with the women that I work with who are trying to meet their body composition goals. So they're trying to build some muscle. Remember, if you're over 40 and you're not doing some resistance training, regularly challenging those muscles, you are losing them. And along with them, you're losing your strength, and it can impact your health and your energy and your long-term health. But that's another podcast. And if you've been listening to me, you already know this. Okay, so back to what I was saying. I work with women who are intentionally looking after and building their muscle. And often many of them also want to remove some body fat, usually that unhealthy visceral fat that happens for many of us in this midlife period right around the midsection. And many of us have this little thing that happens, that creeps up as we're trying to make these changes, and this little thing works against us. This little thing, that can kind of be a big thing, is cravings. Cravings for usually hyperpalatable foods like sweets or chips, that kind of thing. And often it happens at night after dinner. You're not hungry, you just want something. Maybe there's a commercial on TV that triggered it. Maybe your husband's having a bowl of ice cream and that triggered it. Maybe it's something you do most nights and it's just become a bit of a habit. Or maybe it's just a craving that came out of nowhere. So this is one of the things that frequently comes up in coaching sessions. How do we approach this? What kind of strategies do we need to create around it? Because when we're making these body composition changes, these late night cravings can really work against us reaching our goals. Now, as midlife women, we very frequently have a lot on our plate. And I know I'm not telling you any big surprise here. Many of us are looking after a lot of other people and things in our lives. And many of us have a fair amount of stress and energy being spent on everything else. And I absolutely love it when women decide to start working on ways of making themselves a priority in terms of prioritizing their own self-care and optimizing their own health. And I love it when women realize that when they do this, they show up for themselves, they have their own back, they show up for everyone and everything else better too. It's easier, and they show up as a better version of themselves. So no big surprise, but this enormous amount of stress and responsibility can often be what's driving some of these late night cravings. But first, I always like to start by looking at triggers. Was the craving triggered by the environment? So as I said, was there a commercial on TV where somebody was eating something? Or is there someone sitting around you that's eating something? Or is it just a habit, something that you just regularly do? There are some different strategies that we can use, but especially for the habit snacking or the cravings out of nowhere, I really like to use a certain approach that can help us stop eating against our will. Some of you know what I'm talking about. We know we're not hungry. We know that we're working against ourselves in terms of reaching the goals that we've set for ourselves, but we're doing it anyway. I've talked about powerful questions before, and the one I'm about to give you is one of them. In that moment, after you first asked yourself if you're hungry, and if you are, then you probably need to eat. It's your body's way of telling you that you need to eat, but making sure that it is true hunger. And if you aren't hungry, then I suggest the second question be, what do I really need right now? Because if the need isn't food, then more food isn't going to meet the need, right? Sometimes we're freaking tired. We just need to go to bed. And so sometimes it's a matter of working on prioritizing our sleep a bit better. What do I really need? I need more rest. I'm going to bed. Many of us are trying to squeeze way too much into the day. We're not asking for help or delegating as much as we could, or worse, we're wasting our time on things that really don't matter, or putting too much time into things that we could do in half the time if we just let it be okay that it's not perfect. So maybe that's it. Maybe we just need to work on letting go of some things that don't really matter, that aren't as high on the priority list as our own mental and physical health. Maybe we need to work on asking for help. I am really guilty of this. I have, over the years, really struggled asking my husband to help with cooking and cleaning, household stuff, because I think the modeling for me growing up, with the main influence being my grandparents, was that she did everything in the house and he did everything outside the house. The inside house jobs were women's jobs, and then the outside jobs were men's jobs, although she did a lot of those too. But seriously, I have been guilty of telling myself that he works hard all day on the farm. I shouldn't ask him. But you know what? I work all day too. It may not be manual labor, but I'm certainly working too. So I've gotten much better at it with a lot of practice and self-encouragement. And now he regularly asks what's for dinner and what can he do to help. Love it. It wasn't always that way because we had gotten into some patterns that weren't really serving me and causing a lot of resentment and stress. But I have learned to speak up and not take it all on myself. Sometimes we're feeling unappreciated. How nice would it be for someone to just say, "Karina, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you." And so sometimes what we need is to acknowledge to ourselves that we're feeling this way and maybe work on some self-validation or having the conversation maybe with our partner. I'm feeling really unappreciated here. Again, another conversation that I learned to have. Maybe eating is our way of rewarding ourselves. I've heard that one over and over again, but really, if you think about it, is it really a reward? If we're sabotaging our own goals and not having our own back, if what you need is a reward, then maybe it's a matter of looking at how you can reward yourself with something that isn't going to undermine the health goals that you've set. So then it's a matter of exploring, what does that look like? Maybe it's just going to bed. Or maybe it's taking a little time out to read a book. Or, I know it sounds like a cliche, but when was the last time you had a nice hot bubble bath that smelled really good? Maybe a nice fragrant bath oil, some lavender, and some music, or a good podcast? Maybe a candle. Or maybe we need to dump out the thoughts that are spinning around and around in our brains out on paper, doing some journaling, seeing what's in there, cleaning that up. Maybe it's connection, like real connection. Having a cuddle with your partner. I love asking him to rub my feet while we watch TV, and he doesn't mind doing it sometimes. Maybe it's phoning a friend, or even writing a letter, or even an email, if that's how you communicate with a friend who maybe lives far away. Maybe you're feeling stressed, and you feel like you need some stress relief. What does that look like? Could you go for a walk? Do some yoga, maybe in a quiet room in the house? Hit the gym? Meditate, do a relaxation exercise. Look, our brains are lazy and they like repeating behaviors. They are programmed to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and do it all with the least amount of energy possible. So if you've developed a pattern of a quick hit of dopamine when you have an unpleasant emotion, then that is what it will be wanting to do every single time. And sometimes it's such a knee-jerk reaction, you've done it before you even realize you did it. Awareness is always the first step. If you've already done it, or if you're in the middle of doing it, you can still take a second and ask yourself that incredibly powerful question. What is it that I really need right now? Is it really the Oreos? With time, it gets easier to remember to ask the question when you notice the craving. And with time, getting really good at processing emotion because you're identifying it and allowing it and giving yourself what you really need. It's better for your overall mental and physical health, not to mention your midsection. Hey, before you go, if you're a midlife woman and you're interested in body composition changes as well, I am doing a free online talk this Saturday. And I'm going to talk about all the things, all the changes that are happening to our bodies in midlife, what we need to know, and what we can do to optimize our health, our energy, and our body composition. So if you're interested, I'll put a link in the show notes. I hope you've enjoyed this Manage Your Mind mindful moment. And if you have, and you can think of someone else who might enjoy it, please pass it on. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast to make it more visible to those who might get something out of it too. Have a great week, everyone. And until then, I hope you opt to thrive.
The Opt to Thrive podcast is designed for information purposes only and is not engaged in the giving of medical advice. The information provided on the podcast should not be used for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease. In no way should the information provided by Opt to Thrive be considered medical advice, and at all times the advice of a medical professional should supersede recommendations from Opt to Thrive. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, you should consult your healthcare provider. The views expressed in this podcast are purely that of Dr. Sims and do not in any way reflect those of the institutions she contracts her medical services to.
Thank you for listening to Opt to Thrive. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate and share the podcast. You can visit our website at opttothrive.com and leave a comment for any subjects you would like to hear more about.